Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to the God Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the revered speaker for today, Her Grace, Sri Radha Govinda Dev. And all glories to the Samud Vaishnava devotees. Devotees, we thank you all for being here today as always. And again, we're very much blessed. We have Her Grace with us today. Mother Sri Radha Govinda Devi, thank you so much for being here with us. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's always so blissful to have your association. For many reasons, of course. But one, because you're speaking from the down, and then two, because you are Sri Radha Govinda Devi.
I like your DJ setup. I feel very inspired by your background.
I'm ready to hit the floor. Lord Goranga is about to descend. Hare Krishna. So, without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukakaroti Vachalam Pangoram Gayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Mande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swami Nitinamine Nama Acharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakata Damadaya Nagara Grama Tarine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 6, verse 36. Tatapi kirtayamyanga yatha mathi yatha shrutam kirtim hare swam satkartum giram anya bhidasatim. Tatapi kirtayatmyanga yatha mathi yatha shrutam kirtim hare swam satkartum giramanya bhidasatim. Tatapi kirtayamyanga yatha mathi yatha shrutam kirtim hare swam satkartum giramanya bhidasatim. Word by word translation. Tatha, therefore, api, although it is so, kirtayami, I do describe, anga, O Vidura, yatha, as much as, mati, intelligence, yatha, as much as, shrutam, heard, kirtim, glories, hare, of the Lord, swam, own, Satkartum, just purify. Giram, speechless. Anyabhida, anyabhidha, otherwise. Asatim, unchaste. Translation. In spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech. For otherwise, my poor power of speaking would remain unchaste. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The purification of the conditioned soul necessitates purification of his consciousness. By the presence of consciousness, the presence of the transcendental sound is verified. And as soon as consciousness leaves the body, the material body is not active. Consciousness is perceived, therefore, by activities. The theory put forward by empiric philosophers that consciousness can remain in an inactive state is the proof of their poor fund of knowledge. One should not become unchaste by stopping the activities of pure consciousness. If the activities of pure consciousness are stopped, certainly the conscious living force will be otherwise engaged, because unless engaged, the consciousness has no standing. Consciousness cannot be silent, even for a moment. When the body does not act, the consciousness acts in the form of dreams. Unconsciousness is artificial. By induced extraneous help, it remains for a limited period. But when the intoxication of the drug is finished, or when one is awake, the consciousness again acts earnestly. Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them perfectly. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. It is also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully experienced or not. One must attempt to engage one's body, mental and verbal activities in the transcendental glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. The existence of the conditioned soul. The existence of the conditioned soul can be purified only by the method of engaging mind and speech in the service of the Lord. The Tridandi Sannyasi of the Vaishnava school accepts 3 rods, representing the vow to engage in the service of the Lord with body, mind, and speech, whereas the Ekadandi Sannyasi takes the vow to become one with the Supreme. Since the Lord is the Absolute, there is no distinction between him and his glories. The glories of the Lord, as chanted by the Vaishnava Sannyasi, are as substantial as the Lord himself. And thus, while glorifying the Lord, the devotee becomes one with him in transcendental interest, although he remains eternally a transcendental servitor. This simultaneously one and different position of the devotee makes him eternally purified, and thus his life becomes a complete success. Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All right. I am so happy to see all of you assembled here to remember the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is Madeka Bandhu Matsangi Madguru Manmahadhana Manishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. Srimad Bhagavatam is our best friend, is the only treasure, always a shelter. The world may be going to hell. There is war, there is tension, anxiety, conflicts, but Srimad Bhagavatam brings that peace and happiness and shelter. So today, let us pray to Srimad Bhagavatam, who is the Arunodita. After Krishna left, Krishna Svadhamo Pagate, Krishna left, but Bhagavatam, it was rising like a sun to dissipate our ignorance. So let us pray to Srimad Bhagavatam, who is non-different from Krishna, to enter our hearts, to shake us up and to wake us and come in terms with reality that Krishna is our only shelter. And let us make that earnest attempt. They say that the listeners are more important than the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I pray to all of you also to bless me, to speak some words that can help us to be absorbed in the glories of Holy Name and Sri Krishna. Thank you. All right, so we are going into a journey today. It's actually a very next level of a journey of transcendental sound vibration. But before we start, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and rather the shadow over the sun, rather. So there's an eclipse which is just happening on Gaur Purnima day, and it's actually not just an ordinary eclipse. One is happening on the 14th, that is in a few days, but another one is happening end of March as well. So both these eclipses have something to do with today's talk as well. Why? Because the eclipse is actually a wonderful opportunity. Why? Because people run for different kinds of protection, different kinds of superstitions, especially in Africa and India. We have a lot of sentiments. So this eclipse, this particular month in March, is so purifying. And this whole verse today is about that purification. So just like the sun gets covered by Rahu, the planets are having their own celestial drama up in the sky, and then there is the cover. So similarly, the material contamination also, it covers our pure consciousness. So what is the best way to remove that consciousness? That is the point of today's verse. So the very activity mentioned in this verse today is the glorification of the Lord. There's a beautiful poem by one of our Vaishnavacharyas, and he says, Sakala graha balanine sarasi jaksha Ravichandra Buddhanine Rahu Ketune. So it is said that, like Prahlad Maharaj also speaks about this in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Graha, that's the most powerful of all planets, all magics, all mysticism. So this eclipse that's happening right now in these next few weeks is it's like a cosmic cleansing. And it is like an opportunity, like the universe opens up. It's like super more high upgraded Wi-Fi than 5G Wi-Fi connection with Krishna. So it's a great opportunity for us to chant more intensely. And this verse today, Tatapi kirtayamyanga yathamathi yathashrutam. So Vidura, here he is speaking about very humble, very, very, very humble mood. He's saying that my inability, whatever I have been able to hear, only I can speak. So here he's speaking about the glories of the Lord by pure speech, what he has heard. So, and he says that only what I've heard, whatever I'm repeating it, that's chaste. So what is the lesson in this? The lesson is the power of speech. Maitreya Muni is setting this example that all the Vaishnava Bhagavatam characters set that example, like the ones we glorify other than the demons, of course. So they set this example that they're not claiming to be the head or the scholar or the poet or the master. They're very, very humble. So they are like, I am repeating what I've heard. So, by doing so, my speech will become pure. So that they redefine what means authenticity. So this reminds us of Bhagavad Gita verse. Anybody remembers? Where Krishna is actually helped Arjuna realize, this is later in the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter. So Arjuna is actually saying, Param Brahma Param Dhamam Pavitram Paramam Bhavam Purusham Bhavam Purusham Shashwatam Divyam. How is that? Divyam Adidevam Majam Vibhu. So Krishna, you are the supreme Brahman, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth, the eternal, the divine, the unborn, the greatest. So whenever we're hearing to Srila Prabhupada's lectures, again and again and again and again, he repeats, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and we are insignificant servants. But our significance is connected to the greatness of Krishna. Otherwise, we are completely insignificant. So in this verse also, Krishna is Arjuna, whether it's Maitreya Rishi, whether it's Vidura, they're not fabricating words. They are simply repeating the truth as received in the disciplic succession. Now, I'll go back to the presentation. So I have this, I tried to make this slide in a way that is easy for you to remember. So, okay, eclipse is over the sun, right? So it's like an analogy of covering the consciousness. So we are covered. So these eclipses happen to reset us. So just like an eclipse covers the sun, material contamination covers our pure consciousness. So that's the best remedy is what? According to this verse, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, according to Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, the glorification of the Lord and the glorification of devotees, of course. And so here in this verse, so anyway, the lesson, okay, let's see the lesson. The lesson is, oops, we went back. The lesson is speech used in Krishna's service purifies us. So any of you have the experience of keeping quiet for a moment, keeping quiet for a day? Maybe some of you did some austerities of Mauna Vrata, keeping quiet, not speaking. We know how difficult that can be, how difficult it is. So the lesson here is when we channel that speaking in service of Krishna, then Hala Pushpa Balligala Valage Hari Vyaptanendaritavage Ananda Ananda Matte Paramananda Anandana Kandanoliye Yenandatte Veda Vrinda. When we dedicate our speech, our emotions, our actions, all our actions and all our endeavors and all our motivations in service of the Lord, then we are freed from karmic bondage, and then we attain the true happiness of Krishna consciousness. And even we find happiness even in difficulty. So the power of speech, the power of pure speech is in repeating the truth. That is what purifies us, not coming up with our own ideas. And then the Arjuna verse, how Krishna is glorified as the supreme Brahman, supreme truth. So the lesson here is we don't need to be eloquent, great scholars. What we need is, what Krishna wants is sincerity. And Krishna's glories are enough. Krishna Katha is the best way to cleanse our mind. And we don't need to be eloquent. So there's that bhajan. And in that bhajan, again and again, the three principles are emphasized. First is, I like this meditation. This is a super beautiful meditation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kshiradhi Shayana Hari Ninage Bekaiteno Gokulada Benne Sakagalillawe Halmusara Kadale Nataka Yetake Ninage Krishna. So the whole point about consciousness and the cosmos and the Supreme Lord ruling those cosmos, he is the Lord of the universe. Jagannatha, he's the Lord of all three universes, all the whole entire creation. And he is lying in the causal ocean. He owns ocean of milk, ocean of yogurt. And then in this bhajan, the Vaishnava Acharya is saying, so why did you, excuse me, my dear Lord, you own those oceans, right? Why did you have to come to Gokula to steal the butter and yogurt and break the pots of the gopis? Excuse me, can you please clarify what's going on here? You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're the Sarva Loka Maheshwara. You're the Aham Bija Pradapita. You're the seed-giving father to all living entities. And you have all these things, and why do you come? So that's the first question that comes up. Why? Why does Krishna? So why? It's because he wants to steal the butter in the hearts of the devotee. And how did the churning happen? The churning happens by humbling us. Every time I'm thinking, here I am, I know, I got my life together. And Krishna says, really? Let me show it to you. And then he shows us how insignificant our plans can be. And then that's the second principle. The third principle there within this concept of what we don't need to be and what we need to be. There's the other bhajan. This is one of our contemporaries of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, how is that? Yesuka, no, how is that? Let me remember that verse. ಕಾಶಿ ವಾರಾಣಸಿ ಕಂಚಿ ಕಾಳಹಸ್ತಿ ರಾಮೇಶ್ವರ ಯೇಸು ದೇಶ ತಿರುಗಿದರು ಬಹುದೇನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದೇನು ದೋಷನಾಶಿ ಕೃಷ್ಣವೇಣಿ ಗಂಗೆ ಗೋದಾವರಿ ಯಮುನೆ ತುಂಗವಾಸೆ. So basically this song he's saying again and again, no matter how many holy places you go to, no matter how many rivers of holy rivers you take bath in, no matter how much you have memorized the shastras and the puranas and the shlokas, and no matter all those things, dasanagu visheshanagu bhavapashanigu, that's not going to impress Krishna. What is going to impress Krishna is your attitude of being a servant, becoming the dasa, the identity as I am the servant of Krishna. In that consciousness, when I can do kirtan, when I can do Krishna katha, that is what will empower me. Let me just show the next slide. Where is it? Here. Okay, you're back to the slide. So the unchaste consciousness, according to this verse, right? It's said that Bhagavatam is very much emphasizing that unchaste consciousness leads to degradation. A consciousness left unengaged. They say devil's mind is, how is that? How is that? Empty mind is the devil's workshop. So when somebody doesn't have a job, is not doing anything, it becomes like a devil's workshop. So then it will degrade. And one example we can see is King Ambarish, how he engaged all his senses and Krishna's service. And so Ambarish Maharaj's example shows how he was protected because of engaging all his senses in service of the Lord. And then we see the example of Durvasa Muni. He misused his speech. He was a little careless. And then he was chased by Sudarshan Chakra. So modern parallel, gossip, social media, idle talk can lead to negative karma and can lead to offenses. So the lesson here is if we don't engage in Krishna's service, our words and thoughts will become impure. So now Durvasa Muni, he was a great mystic. But because of that misuse of speech, what happened? The Sudarshan Chakra chased him all across the planets. Ultimately, he had to run back to Ambarish Maharaj to beg forgiveness. So Ambarish Maharaj was fully absorbed in Krishna. So he was humble. And the practical example, like we can see these days now, even on Facebook, even devotees could be discussing the name of Krishna Katha. Sometimes we fall prey to Gramya Katha, so to a lot of nonsense. And we can get absorbed in things which is not Krishna. My Guru Maharaj always says, Krishner Matirastu. So the point is Krishna the center of my life? What to speak if great rishis like Durvasa Muni was going through this? What to speak of me? I'm exposed to all social media things. One little negative comment, one social media gossip, one ideal talk, it could dominate our lives. So if we're not careful, both speech and hearing, because what we hear is what we'll speak. So if we are constantly on social media, boomeranged by all this craziness and chaos, then we get entangled in that karma. Okay, so the lesson here is that it's an opportunity. This lifetime, this life, this devotional life, this human birth, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, after so many lifetimes you got this birth. So it is meant for accelerating the purification. So 2025 is just beginning from a cosmic perspective. And this is a great opportunity to engage cutting bad habits. This eclipse is very powerful. What we couldn't do for many, many, many years, this eclipse, we can cut bad habits. We can engage in good habits. So this very is a very accelerated purification is happening cosmically right now. And the shift in consciousness will start happening. But in order for the shift to happen universally, we will also see a lot of chaos, a lot of craziness in the world. Then the purification will come for those. But it means if we willingly purify ourselves through tapasya, through reading, through chanting, through giving up bad habits, we will go through in a smoother way. But if we are not, and we're resisting and we're holding on to it, then karma and planets and creation and cosmos and energies and will hit us in a forceful way. So another important point that we see here is that we need to hear from the spiritual master. We need to hear from the Vaishnavas. Even Krishna himself, sorry, this is the point here I have. Let me just go back to the slide. Here it is. Those are my notes. This is the presentation. So Guru, the role of Guru and hearing from authority. So guidance is the lifeline of spiritual progress. Approaches tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So the approaching a spiritual master, inquiring from him submissively and renders service. The self-realized can impart the spiritual knowledge. And the example we have here is even powerful Ravana, he ignored wise counsel. He didn't listen. He didn't listen to anybody and he got destroyed. Another example is Duryodhana. He also didn't listen to Vidura. He didn't listen to anybody. So he was also destroyed. So the lesson is we don't have to reinvent truth. We just hear, follow, and repeat. Hear, follow, repeat. But we can do that in the negative way also, right? Sattvagun, Rajasgun, Tamasgun of hear, follow, repeat. If I hear nonsense, I'll follow nonsense and I will speak nonsense. But if I hear Krishna Katha, then I will do my best to follow that and then I'll repeat it. So it's very important to see where we are at. Nobody can judge for us. It is our own spiritual journey. So, and then this is the others. Before I share the next slide, let me see if I left out any other things. I don't usually cover everything in the notes, but I just see, okay. Then I have here the secret. Yeah, I can share the screen now. What's the secret to success? This is a question. What's the idea of your success? And what's the secret for you to achieve that success? So that's the next question. So that is answered, right? Okay, so the secret to success is kirtan and actually I would say kirtan in the mood of humility. Glorifying Krishna aligns us with his purpose, and chanting is the most powerful purifier. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says one should chant in a humble state of mind, more tolerant than a tree. Every effort counts. So our endeavor and then Krishna's mercy. We need both. Chanting, sharing Krishna's glories, even posting a Bhagavatam verse on your social media could be a good way to put your efforts out there for helping people think of Krishna. All right, so we have the formula here, humility and kirtan together. Humility, kirtan in humility. Okay, kirtan in humility. That is the formula for spiritual success. Okay, so that's for today. And usually we have a lot of questions, so I'm going to leave time for questions. And then if we have time, then I will cover some more points I have here. So any questions, any comments, any realizations, how we can chant the holy name in a humble state of mind, how we can think of ourselves lower than the straw in the street. How can we take inspiration?
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Sri Radha Govinda Devi. Thank you for sharing this wisdom with us. And well, I have some questions, but dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your reflections. My first question is, well, I will start with the question you posed. What is the secret of being a successful devotee? And you gave kirtan and humility, but you're saying kirtan in humility. Now, this word, humility, is so essential in devotional service. It's been stressed so many times by so many personalities. But I would like you to help us understand what really is humility. When the scriptures say that this particular devotee is very humble, what does that mean? And I will say this, that some people, by definition of humility, think that humility means that you just accept anything and everything an authority tells you. That means you're humble. If you kind of ask probing questions, some consider that to be symptoms of arrogance and not being humble. So, in brief, what do the acharyas mean when they say that one should be humble?
Yeah, this is such an important question, right? Your question is basically the application of the principle of humility. So this definition I like about the humility is this, that humility doesn't mean that we think of ourselves less, like think low about ourselves and down about ourselves. It just means that we think less, we don't think much about ourselves. That's humility. So for some people to speak up and say, excuse me, Prabhuji, I think, we should start our class in time. No, so if let's say, okay, I mean, in this case, we always start in time. So it's a good example to use here. So you're not like, if we are not doing, let's say you're not starting in time, and then somebody says, Prabhuji, I think we should start in time. So there are many considerations. So from what is my circle of influence or it may be my circle of concern, I'm concerned about it. Am I a person who attends the classes regularly? Am I a person who giving the class? What is my duty in that situation? What is my influence in that situation? Then second is, what is my motivation? Is my motivation to try to correct another person, right? If my motivation is, Sade Prabhu, he's doing such a nice service, so let me pull him down a little bit, make him feel humble, take up as my mission to keep him humble or something. So what is my motivation? It's important to look at that. So in Krishna consciousness, whether it is the curse of Parikshit, or whether it's Durvasa being chased by Sudarshan Chakra, or whether it's Gajendra who is crying and Krishna jumps even without the Garuda and rushes to save him. In all these circumstances, or whether it's Prahlad or it's Dhruva, little Dhruva Maharaj, the principle is not external action alone. The principle is always the motivation behind. So for Krishna, he sees our intent. What is the purity of the intent? Is my intent to uplift the Sangha? Is my intent, like I said, like what is my true intent? Then there is the third level of practical way of expressing it. It can be done with assertiveness. So it's not only what I say, it's also how I say it. I could say something like, Sahadev Prabhu, I am so grateful for our sanghas, in Africa. We've known many devotees come to the place I am. So this is so nice to have these classes. It is so nourishing. I just wanted to give a feedback to improve our situation a little more. I was thinking like if we could start in time and end in time, this would really help devotees, feel a little bit more comfortable. But again, I really want to thank you for organizing and being on time. This is your busy schedule. You do it. I'm so eternally indebted. So that's like a sattva guna way of expressing. And then there could be a rajas guna way of expression, because everything is dependent on motivation. If my motivation is rajasic, then my way of speaking will also be rajasic. I'll say something like, it's very good. You're doing all these things. You think you're great or what? Why don't you do it in the right? It's the same thing, but can be expressed in a very rajasic way. And it can also be done in a very tamasic way. Don't talk to you. Don't say anything indirectly. Go to everybody else. Say something negative, gossip, backbiting, putting on social media, trying to do something very tamasic, destructive, low class. So the point is, the question is, raising concerns with authority, is it humble or not? It depends on these other three factors also. Who are you? What is your motivation? And how are you presenting it? So only after considering all these things, we can determine if this thing, we cannot determine, honestly. Only Krishna can determine if the person is humble or not, because it may appear like the person is not humble, but maybe Krishna sees that no, the person is actually very humble. So we are in no position to judge, right? So having said that, there is a social level. See, what I said is a adhumukha perspective, means looking within, looking at my motivation, looking at my own intent, and looking at my mannerism of speaking, and do I respect this person, and all that. Okay, then there is also the Triangamukha, how I am addressing you. That's the Triangamukha. Triangamukha means looking, facing forward. Bhagavatam speaks about the Adhomukha, Triangamukha, and Urdhvamukha. So it means how do I need to deal with the situation? There is this thing. I'm just giving an example of thing. Classes don't start in time or something. I have this situation with another course I'm doing. The classes are always late. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and nobody says anything because of fear of offense, fear of doing something wrong. Then there is the Urdhvamukha. Urdhvamukha perspective is bigger. As ISKCON, even in ISKCON, we have the IST, ISKCON stretching time. Say 4 o'clock, Janmashtami program will start. It will start at 8 o'clock, right? So ISKCON has the reputation of having things. So then we need to look at the situation from upward looking. What kind of reputation we want for this program, for this group, for this temple? What kind, how do we want to, and presenting our concerns in a way like, Sahadev Prabhu, would you like some help to host the meeting? I can come in time and open the meeting for you if you like. So that would be a Urdhvamukha perspective of how can I contribute towards the solution of the problem and not. So I would say that's the humility from this side of the situation when we are on the side where we feel like things are not working well. But when we are on the other side, it's a different story, and it's difficult. When we are on the end of receiving criticism from somebody, then humility means to say, hey, who are you to say this? I am the temple president. I am the GBC. I am the organizer. Who do you think you are to give me this feedback, right? Let's say I get a feedback about this class. And somebody says, you know, Mataji, this, and this I didn't like about the class. Now, I can respond to that in Sattvagun, Rajasgun, and Tamasguna, regardless of whether that person's feedback was in Sattvagun or Rajasguna or Tamasguna. Correct? Somebody may just say, Mataji, your class was terrible. I got a headache after that. I never want to come to your class. So I could just say, bye, good luck, right? I could say something like, Prabhuji, I'm so sorry about that. Would you like to say what specifically did you feel upset about? You know, it depends who the person is again, but if it's coming from a place of they're really upset and they're sad, or they are really just trying to create trouble, or are they trying to help me to improve? So all these things needs to be considered.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate the response altogether, but one particular remark you made, that is, whatever is coming at me, sorry. Whatever may be coming at me, may be rajasic, it may be sattvic, it may be tamasic, but my response to it is also very important. So if even someone appears to be telling me something that is like bad or whatever, it depends on my reaction to whatever the individual is doing or saying. So thank you for that. But I have a question from the text itself. And if I may put it up here, it's very interesting. This is Maitreya speaking. Maitreya is saying that in spite of my inability, what does Maitreya mean by inability? Inability to understand what Krishna was telling Uddhava, inability to repeat. What does he mean by his inability, or just being a jiva? And then he goes further to say, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master, which in this case is Krishna himself, and whatever I could assimilate. So that means that whatever he is sharing may not necessarily be all that he heard from the Lord, but this is as much as he could assimilate. And he is now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech. So, and then for otherwise, my power of speaking would remain unchaste. In other words, if he says or speaks something other than what the Lord has said, he will be unchaste. But he's also accepting that he may not be able to speak everything the Lord spoke, and he's only speaking what he's been able to assimilate. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also stated that the disciple may not be able to repeat everything the spiritual master has said. Now, if my guru said something to me, of course, I will not be able to repeat everything he has said. And I repeat what I have been able to assimilate to people who are listening to me, which means that something is left behind. And those listening to me also may not be able to repeat as I shared with them. So in this way, if you follow the chain down, there may come a point in time that a big chunk of the knowledge may be lost. This is my thinking. And if that is the case, then how do we hold this teaching intact as the Supreme Lord gave originally? This is my question and doubt.
Yeah. Wow, that was like so well explained. That is very well articulated issue, samasya. So this is true. Have you seen sometimes there are these videos, or even I played those games sometimes in some educational settings. There's like a line of 12 people. Everybody's, says a sentence, like you make a big sentence, you tell the other person, and the other person tells the other person, and the other person. Finally, when it gets to the last person, let's say the first person said something like, "Oh, you know what? Right now Eid is going on, and I went to the friend's house, and they were having this iftar. They were actually having, they could only eat during the morning, and I also saw a beautiful moon and star in their house. It was so attractive. And I came home and I ordered from Amazon." You tell a story. And then when it finally comes to the other person says, you know what? I became a Muslim and I ordered moon and star from the Amazon or something. Something completely absurd. So yeah, this is evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Sakalene hamahata yogo nashta parantapa. So that's Bhagavad Gita verse that says that as the disciplic succession keeps going, sometimes the thing is lost. The message was lost. That's why Sun God wanted this to be spoken again. So that's the Bhagavad Gita was spoken again. So this question is very relevant for us. My Guru Maharaj always is emphasizing this thing: study scriptures, study the scriptures, study the scriptures. When we study, all of us study Bhagavad Gita, the same Bhagavatam. We learn from Maitreya Rishi, we learn from Vidura, we learn from Arjuna, we learn from Krishna. Repetition. So first thing is scriptures, sadhu, shastra. The second thing is sadhu, association with devotees. We come together. We don't say, I know all that already. I know all that verses. No, we keep listening to it again and again and again and again and again, so that retention is there. What was that word you just read? Assimilation. So to be able to assimilate, like if I sit in a class for 1 hour and I'm not taking any notes, maybe my retention and assimilation may be 20%. That's for me. Maybe for you is 90. But if I'm taking notes, quickly writing down, 70, 80%, like that. So even in that, depending on my physical, mental situation, it can vary. So that's why Shastra is very important, means touching the scriptures. And one of my teacher was saying it's very important to read the Sanskrit in Sanskrit, because it's very powerful, it's potent. And I'm doing my Bhaktivedanta course now, and so it's very important to like read these verses and look at those verses and connect to other Bhagavad Gita verses, other Bhagavatam verses where the same words are repeated. Build a relationship with these verses. So that's the only way we can give it to the next generation. But like nowadays, AI is making students more dull. Everybody depends on it. So people don't even know how to spell the right words. They don't even know proper grammar. They don't know how to do things because we're becoming excessively dependent on the computer. So as devotees, how we can preserve our culture, our tradition, our lineage, our disciplic succession is to constantly build a relationship with verses in the association of devotees. And that, like my Guru Maharaj is emphasizing, do Bhakti Shastri, do Bhakti Vaibhav, not just because of the knowledge, but to make it assimilate, to make it realize knowledge. Like I have that experience when I study on my own. Yeah, whatever. If I have to give a class, I study, and of course, because of the classes, I study sometimes. But when I sit with a group of devotees and study together for months and months and months and months, transformation happens. When I started seventh canto, I was having, there were certain people, they betrayed me and they really mistreated me. They had a very bad relationship. They were even devotees and everything. And I was really hurt, and I was feeling a lot of resentment and anger was there, and I couldn't resolve it. I'd done so much for them and they were treating me this way. But then the whole seventh canto transformed me. It just shifted my heart, not just because I was studying seventh canto, because I had studied it even in the past, but studying it in the association of devotees, different teachers speaking their realization, different students sharing their realizations, just completely removed that any of those resentment or any other negativity I had. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives, what is the verse of Srimad Bhagavatam that says, Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So another verse, the other one which destroys something like that. Shushusho Shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. So by serving those devotees, then these difficult, difficult emotions can be destroyed. So and the seventh canto made me associate with those devotees, serve those devotees, invite the devotees home, wash their lotus feet, bring the prasadam to them, cook for devotees, all those things in the mood of humility. So, and then then the third one was Shastra, Sadhu. Among Sadhu, another thing I would say is qualified speakers, devotees who have realizations, associating with them. That will also keep the spark alive, because not everybody has the realization. We can only speak according to our realization. So go and seek those devotees who have realization, catch their lotus feet. What's that verse? The one which says that you should Mahat Seva, like Naisham matistavadurukramangram sprishtyadanarta pagamoya dharta mahiyasam padarajobhishekam nishkinchananam vranitayavad. So attaining the lotus feet of Krishna is very important, but it's impossible to attain the lotus feet of Krishna unless and until we worship the devotees and take the dust from their lotus feet and smear it on our heads. Until then, we cannot attain the mercy of the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's not possible to continue the lineage unless and until we are submissive and serving to these great devotees.
Well,
And I think that would count as guru. That would count as guru. So Guru Sadhu Shastra is like the answer in its own flavor and variety. I mean, I'm sure you hear this like every class, right? But every speaker brings their own realization. Every speaker brings their own perspective. So that will deepen our faith. It will build more and stronger and stronger. It's like muscles. We build spiritual muscles to be able to apply it. It's not that you don't know this thing. We all know. You heard it again and again, again and again.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, you are absolutely right, because I may know some things, but when I hear others affirm what I believe, then it solidifies my belief. So it helps in that way. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, does anyone have something to ask or to share? Hare Krishna. See, Mother, you were talking about I think you were referencing somebody who said it's very important to study Sanskrit. I do not want to follow in the footsteps of one god brother of mine. He said he does not want to go back home this lifetime until he has come back and born as Indian with the ability to study Sanskrit and has the power like Sai Baba. But I wish I understand Sanskrit. And the reason I'm saying that is because I think I have the interest in discussing Krishna topics. But I am very, very much handicapped. One, because I do not have a very fertile brain. And then two, I do not have love for Krishna, so Krishna will not reveal the truth to me. And then thirdly, I do not understand Sanskrit. But I would like to put something on the screen here to kind of buttress what I'm trying to say. This is Lord Chaitanya, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and the Digvijaya. This Digvijaya was a very big poet and had been defeating all sort of scholars. And when he met with Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya smashed his false ego, Lord Chaitanya gave this premise, which is so interesting because even in today's English language, if you're writing a paper, all these things are expected. So Lord Chaitanya is saying that when you're having a debate, all subjects must be examined in terms of 5 categories. One is the purpose of the original text. Now I do not understand Sanskrit, so it's going to be very difficult for me. Of course, we are very much fortunate Srila Prabhupada is giving us so much. And then 2, the reason. 3, examples given in terms of various facts. 4, whether or not a clearer understanding of the subject matter is being brought forth. And then 5th, you give support by authoritative quotation from the scriptures. But the purpose of the original text is you can only do this if you understand the language. If you do, because as I am understanding, Sanskrit is so deep that one word could mean so many things. And if you are not very trained, you may not be able to understand the meaning of that word in that particular context. So if we, like Western devotees who do not understand this Sanskrit, how can we effectively explain these wonderful teachings to another individual who understands the Sanskrit, but he is not Krishna conscious, and he is philosophically inclined? How do you attempt to try to explain and defend the philosophy before such an individual? What will be your suggestion? Hare Krishna.
Can you make this screen little smaller and put it in the side, and then also share the folio, the verse of today on the, like, I want both on the same screen.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can do that.
You can minimize the word and you can minimize the internet thing, and you can bring both on the screen
Okay, let me do that.
in your DJ room.
I did the room, yes. Make the view. Oh, that is too small. Let me
Yeah.
see. 75. Okay, I think 75 will do.
Yeah, just to get the idea, because I want to bring a couple of things that.
And then
If we look at today's verse, okay, especially I want the synonyms word by Prabhupada.
okay. I think I've been able to do that. Let me see.
Right. Then you don't need to learn Sanskrit.
Okay, I think we can do this now. share this and this.
We can
That's
only see.
well, can you read? Can
Yeah,
you
we can only see the Word document. We cannot see the proper. Oh, I have another idea. Can you just copy paste the synonyms to the same page below?
Oh, okay. I think that is good. I
It's
can,
easy.
yes. Yeah. Right. Copy. And then here it is. Okay, now I can make it bigger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jai, Haribol. See?
Okay.
You could copy paste this, then you really don't need to learn Sanskrit anymore. Haribol. Okay, so purpose of the original text. Actually, if you see this verse without the word by word translation, if you read the verse, even if you know Sanskrit, you will only understand 30% of it. That's the truth. So without the purport of Srila Prabhupada, without even the way Prabhupada will do word by word translation, and then you read the translation. Can you also copy the translation and then you can go down?
Yeah.
I want to show you. So even if you know Sanskrit, the possibility of understanding is only maximum 30%. It is very difficult to comprehend the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam just on the basis of the knowledge of Sanskrit language. Why? Because this science is not based on a language, solely language purpose. It has deep philosophical, theological, devotional principles. So we are so lucky that we have Srila Prabhupada. You can just copy the translation of that verse. Okay, see, let's go to word by word. Go up, yeah. Tatha, therefore, although it is so. Therefore, although it is so, I do describe, O Vidura, as much as intelligence, as much as heard, glories of the Lord, own just purifies speeches, otherwise unchaste. Without translation of Prabhupada. Even if you know Sanskrit and you know what every word means, it would be impossible to actually comprehend what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say here. You see, he translates in a completely different way than the word by word translation here. This is not the only verse. He does that in so many verses. So many verses. So my teacher, who's the same teacher who says, you're supposed to see the original text, and even if you don't understand it, the point is there's potency in it. So you just see it. It's not that you have to read it. It's not that you have to understand it. Because even if you read it, even if you kind of comprehend it, to understand it is not possible. So here you see, in spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master, that thing is not there in the word by word. It's
Yeah.
just not there.
Yeah.
But that's what it actually means. And whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing. Whoa, it makes so much more clear. In glorification of the Lord. How? By pure speech. For otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste. How did you get that from the word by word translation? Therefore, although it is so, it's like, what? What? Where is the assimilation there? Where is the speaking, what I've heard from my spiritual master there? Where is all that?
Yeah.
So the point is that, like, can you go up for your points here? Yeah, go up for this. Yeah. So the purpose of the original text, that I'm only addressing that part here. Even if you know the language very expertly, it is not possible to comprehend it. Sometimes you may read the word by word and say, why is Prabhupada making up this translation which is completely like something else? Well, because he is a Nitya Siddha devotee. He is empowered to understand something that no scholars can understand. In fact, Bhagavatam has been translated by other people in a completely nonsensical way. They will not even describe what actually it means. Why Prabhupada had to write such big, big volumes and we have 12 cantos of Bhagavatam? Because he wanted to explain the purpose of the original text and the reason and give the example and give the understanding. So the point is, Prabhupada has done for us the purpose, the reason, given the examples in there in terms of modern day situation, and given us a clearer understanding of the subject matter. And he supports by authoritative quotations from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, everywhere he can bring from. So the point is that we are so lucky. Prabhupada has done it. My Shiksha Guru, 2 o'clock in the morning, the person will go to sleep at 11 o'clock because of programs and busy schedule. 2 o'clock, this devotee is up studying Prabhupada book word by word, trying to understand what, because when I asked, how can you manage? Prabhupada did this with so much hard work at such an advanced age. He did all this word by word translation and all this for us. To answer your question, you asked how to. Prabhupada did everything to answer your question. The way to preserve it is to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada's books is the only way we can retain, assimilate 5%, maybe. If we are lucky, 5%.
Yeah. Oh, Krishna.
Because Kali Yuga, people are becoming Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Hi Upadrita. People are becoming more and more dull. Like YouTube videos, people will not watch the whole class. How many people will watch this whole class? Any of you watching this offline, comment and say, I watched this class. Listen, if you heard this statement, say it. But I don't know even if 1, 2, 3 people really watch the whole class. People's attention span is decreasing. Even shorts, they will not complete. Anything, it doesn't capture the attention for the first 5 seconds, first 5 or 2 seconds probably, even 2 seconds. So, swipe. So with that brain, how can we retain and assimilate scriptural things? That's why chanting of the holy name, chanting Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. So we just go to Krishna, we cry like a child and say, Krishna, please give me the taste to chant your holy names, because scripture, understanding, it's very difficult. But in order to have faith, to chant the holy names, we need scriptural understanding. So it's like a chicken first or the egg first. Do we need scripture or do we need the holy name? Well, it's the egg and the chicken logic.
I mean, your answer to this last question of mine is a very big mind blower. Wow. I mean, this really should help us truly and honestly appreciate Srila Prabhupada so much, because what is done for us, no one else could.
Yeah. And there are devotees who are experts. Vaisheshika Prabhu, if you listen to his lectures, no, the way he has a relationship with the verses, the way he can, it's not just about quoting, the way, just spontaneously he will be able to like feel the verse and explain the verse, because he's American, he's not born Indian, but he reads Prabhupada books. So the point is this, Sahadev Prabhu, if you read Prabhupada books, there is no need to learn Sanskrit. because there's no better way to understand the purpose and all the 5 things you mentioned than studying Srila Prabhupada's books. And by studying Prabhupada's books, Americans, Australians, even Chinese people I know have become so good in Sanskrit, not because they learned Sanskrit, but because they read Prabhupada books.
Mm, mm. Wow. Thank you so much. This is a very special gem. And I'm fortunate that we can have this gem with us today, and we pray that we can really make a good use of it. But thank you so much. Does anyone else have something to ask or to share? Because it's getting a little late for our revered speaker. Well, Lord Chaitanya is about to descend, and Mother shared with us some days within March that we're going to have eclipses. Somebody shared with me, I was looking for the video to share, but I couldn't find it. But in the US, there is going to be like 3 or so different eclipses just in the month of March.
Yeah, so major. There's a lot of shift happening actually. It's but it's good for spiritual shifting, letting go, cutting bad habits, surrendering. But on a global level, there'll be more chaos. People who are not ready to surrender to God will resist, and there will be a lot of conflicts.
Yeah.
And eclipse, it doesn't only affect places where it's visible. It'll affect individuals and in general the whole world also in other subtler ways.
Oh, I remember. It's good we talked about this, and I just remembered. Because I remember very well, last year we had total eclipse, and it was a big thing on the television stations, and it's so beautiful. Some devotees were saying that it is very inauspicious to watch it. Do not step outside to watch it. So since this is your reputable field, what is your advice? Like, is it appropriate for devotees to step outside their rooms or maybe look through the window and have a view of the solar or lunar eclipse? Is it positive? Or if it's not positive, why it's not positive?
Yeah, so this is it's a cosmic event, but it also has certain heavenly dimensions of relational things going on. So Rahu and Ketu, who are enemies of sun and moon, cause the eclipse. Right? Actually, I have some images. Let me see if I can pull it out. But so in general speaking, it's not auspicious. Actually, one of my aunts, she was a scientist, and she said, well, nothing is going to happen. I'm going to watch. She was pregnant, and she watched, and the child was born retarded, mentally retarded. So the point is that during the time of eclipse, it's called Parva Kala in Sanskrit. So during the time of eclipse, there is the cosmic shift is such that the channels, the vibration that Earth is receiving, especially in places where it's visible, is too intense. Too intense. So it burns certain aspects. So psychologically speaking, if someone is punished, somebody dear to you is punished, and you are like wearing goggles and sitting there and watching it, how would that person feel? Usually, if somebody is insulted, you either walk away, right? Even the scripture says you either walk away, you stop it. You can't stop Rahu and Ketu from eating sun and moon. We cannot stop it. So, Yachakshuresha Savitasya Kalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Teja. So, sun is the eye of this world, and he is our king of all the planets. So we worship him. He's Surya Narayana. So for us, when he is being shamed, that's the situation, is like worst shameful moments for sun god. Sun's going through this humiliation of being obscured from his potency. So we don't go there wearing goggles and enjoy watching that. We just don't. But instead, what do? We take advantage of the cosmic hour. We don't do any material things, but spiritually, what's happening is, like I said, is like a 100 times 5G Wi-Fi connection to Krishna. Open. The Pitruloka, all other dimensions just opens up. So there's no doors, there is no, the access is completely open. Even negative dimensions. So some people will also connect with negative entities. But if we open to positive entities, chanting during that time, doing Gayatri, doing a Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you will get like multiple, thousands and thousands of times benefit when you do it at that time. So instead of going and watching, which will only affect your brains or brain cells, or somebody's pregnant, it will affect the brain of the child, and it will burn aspects. So baby is very delicate, right? So the baby usually gets mentally retarded, physically deformed. All these things happen when the mother sees the eclipse. So traditionally, it is highly inauspicious to view it, especially people who are maybe sensitive, who may have negativities, who may have addictions. Weakness will increase. That is the reason. So yeah, anyway, this image here is to show what happens in terms of cosmically speaking, right? When moon comes in its orbit, when he's going through his ecliptic, and that's when he reaches between sun and earth, that's when solar eclipse happens. That's happening on the 29th March. And then lunar eclipse happens when earth comes in between sun and moon. So and everything, as we see, such a perfect alignment. But karmically speaking, it's a great spiritual opportunity, great karmic cleanse, great time to let go. And so huge shifts are happening for a lot of people in different areas of your life. I actually made a whole seminar and a video. Maybe I'll send you the link, Prabhu, and under this class you can put it. If they want to watch the eclipse video, they can watch it.
Yes,
So
please. Yes,
different
please.
people's different houses will be affected. Like for me, my house of career, dharma, social and public view is activated, and I can already see I'm making videos, I'm making things, and I can already see the huge shift. So like that, for each person, there'll be finance or relationship or different areas will be affected. So I have a video and I have a picture. I'll send you both. You can put it on the link here.
Please do. We really appreciate. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, dear devotees. Thank you so much, Hare Prabhu.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our speaker, Her Grace Sri Radha Govinda Devi. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Ancha
Kalpataru Krishna, Krishna Bhakti Bhagavati
Grace Sri Radha Govinda Devi Dasi ki jai.
Jai.
इसका फाउंडर श्रील प्रभुपाद की
Jai.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की
Yeah.
निताय गौर पिमिनंदे
Hare 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 Bol.
Hare